Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, I'm going to talk about the git help command. I have already launched the git batch, which is this interface here. So to invoke the git help command, you simply type in git space help and press enter, and it gives you this page here. If I scroll up, you can see, so it tells you with the git help command, the usage, this is how you can use it. You can use it git -- for example, if you want to find out the version of git, you could do -- help -c and so on. So it's giving you the various parameters and ways you can use the git help. And here it tells you these are common git commands used in various situations. So feel free to go through them. I'll just go through one or two of them. And this one here called clone. Clone basically allows you to clone a repository into a new directory. For example, if I see a project on GitHub that I like, I can clone that directory into my local repository, or I can clone it into a new repository on my local machine. Cloning basically means copying. So if I'm copying from a remote location, it's called cloning. When you create a Git repository, you have to initialize it. And the command you use to initialize it is init. You basically type git -init. So it tells you here the various options you can use to implement a git command. So let me look through. There is one here called add. For example, if you wanted to add a file to your repository, into the staging area. Staging area basically is an area before you commit the file. So once you've committed it, then it becomes available for other people to use if you're pushing it out remotely. So you use add to add the files to what is called a staging or a holding area. So it gives you the descriptions here of what the various commands. So these are the commands, and these on the right here is the description. So here is a branch. It tells you a branch is a list. This is what you can do with a branch. So feel free to look through. Let me just test one of the commands. There is one for log. If I wanted to know more about log, I can just type in git help and then log and press enter, and it will give me information about the git help page. So this is a page about the log, so I can look through, allows you to look at stuff relating to logs. So feel free to do that if you want on your convenient time. So I just wanted to show you what that command does. So I'll just jump back to the page again. There are other commands you can use. So anytime you are not sure what a command does, or you're trying to do something in Git, if you just go to the Git batch or the command line or the terminal and just type in git -help, it will give you a list of all these commands, and then you can just pick out the one you're trying to implement. So that's it for this lecture on git help. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, I'm going to walk you through how to create a gitignore file. What is a gitignore file? A gitignore file basically is a file used by Git to determine which files or directories to ignore before they are committed. A gitignore file should be committed into your repository in order to share the ignore rules with any other users that clone your repository. So if you are setting up gitignore rules and your repository is cloned by someone else, then for them to inherit the gitignore rules you've set, you need to commit the gitignore file into the repository. So to create a gitignore file, you do that with the touch command inside your git bash. So you type in touch space dot gitignore. Remember that any files with a dot next to it is always an hidden file. So press enter, and that should have created a gitignore file in this directory here. So if I click on here, you should see that's the gitignore file here. All right, because I've got hidden file unchecked, that's why I'm able to see that inside the directory which I created the file. To test how the gitignore works, I'm going to create a blank file here. It's a text file. I'm just going to say, type in git will not include in staging area. So I'm going to do a file save as, and I'm going to save it inside the same directory. So I'm saving in the same directory where we've got the git repository. I'm just going to say ignore me. All right, so now I've got a file called ignore me. So if I come here inside my git bash, if I do a git status, there should be some activity. There you go. It tells you I've got two files because I created a gitignore and a gitignore me text file. So we've got both files here, but they are not in the staging area, so they are not washed. So what I need to do, I need to include this ignore me file inside my gitignore and then do a status command again. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up the gitignore file here, open that in my text editor. So I have got Sublime Text. So this is my gitignore file. So I'm going to add this file ignore-me.txt to the gitignore. So if I click on the gitignore here, so I'm going to type in ignore me.txt, and I'm going to save that. So now if I go back to the command here, if I do git dash status, notice I've only got one file now highlighted, which is telling me I've got one file I need to add to the staging area. If you notice, this ignore me file has disappeared. This is quite useful when you're doing the git add dot command. When you're using this command called git space add and then a full stop or a period, what that does, it will add every file inside the directory. So if you've got gitignore and you've got any files included in the gitignore, those files will be excluded. So that's how you can exclude files from being added to the repository once they've been committed. So now if I do a git add space dot, you will see that, and I do a git status again, there should be only one file in the staging area. Status, as you can see, there's only one file telling you it's a new file, which is a gitignore file, which is this file here. Notice it has not included the ignore me file because the ignore me.txt, I've added that into the gitignore so that it ignores that file when we are adding files to the staging area. So any file in the staging area turns green, that means it is waiting to be committed. If you want to remove a file from the staging area, you just do git space reset that, and it will unstage the file. You can apply the same technique whether you want to exclude an individual file or if you want to exclude entire directories. So you can put as many directories as you want inside the gitignore, and it will ignore that when the files are added to the staging area. I'm not going to commit the gitignore file because it's just an illustration, so I really don't want to share the rules at the moment, because I'm not pushing this out remotely to a remote repository. So that's it for this lecture on creating a .gitignore file. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, I'm going to walk you through how you can edit a file that has been committed and how you can commit it again. So I'm just going to type in git status on the git bash to see the status. The staging area should be empty. So it tells us on the branch there's nothing to commit. So I'm going to open up my text editor and I am going to just type in some text here and to make a change to this file. So I'm just going to type in a simple console command. I'm going to do console.log, and in the parentheses I'm just going to put in a text. I'm going to say hello Udemy. Okay, and just put a semicolon there and save this file. I do save all. Now if I open up my git bash, I'll minimize that. If I do a status command again, git space status, there should be something present in the staging area. There you go. It tells me on the branch, tells me this is the change I've made. Use git add to update what will be committed. Use git checkout -- to discard changes in the working directory. So if I don't want this to be here, I can just use git checkout and this file, the changes will be discarded. So that's, if you don't want changes, just use this command, that should disappear. But I'm going to keep the changes. So what I'll need to do is add it again. So to add it, I can either add the individual files or I can just do git space add space dot, and the dot will add all files that have been changed. I just press enter. If I do status again, git space status, you can see there's only the files that have just changed. It's turned to green. You can see it still says modified because it hasn't been committed. Modify means I've made changes to this file and the file is now in the staging area waiting to be committed. So let me commit it. You do git space commit -m means I want to include a message with the commit, and I will say changes to app.js, and that's it. I'll just press enter. It tells you here master changes to app.js, one file change, tells you all about it. So if I now do git status, the branch should be clean. It tells you here git status on branch master, nothing to commit, working 3 is clean. So that's how you can re-add and recommit once you've made changes to a pre-committed file that you've committed before. Any modifications you've made, you have to add the file again back into the staging area after you've made that change, and you then need to recommit the file again. So that's it for this lecture. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.